time for the world to know about melted onions. You know, if I'm thinking about Thanksgiving side dishes, melted onions has got to be at the very, very, very top of my list. And I think once you make this once, it's definitely gonna be something that you're gonna bust out for all your holiday side dishes, for all your Thanksgivings. So this is actually Thomas Keller's recipe. You know, it's something I've been making for a long time. I forget which book this is out of, but it is one to remember. I do make it a little bit differently, but same technique. So we're gonna be using these white onions because they have a higher water content. And what we're gonna do is slice them, salt them with my rosemary salt. It's got the flavors of rosemary, sage, garlic, a little bit of lemon zest. So we'll slice these onions and then we'll salt them with that rosemary salt. We'll sort of mash them in there. It'll start to pull all those juices out of the onions, and then we'll cook the onions in their own juice for like an hour and a half over a low heat. And then we're gonna emulsify in some unsalted butter to create the most amazing little side dish you'll ever try. I swear to you, this will make all your other Thanksgiving side dishes cower in fear. Let's slice up these onions. So just go ahead and half your onions, and we're just gonna go and do a julienne straight across. You know, something to note here is you could cut this into a different shape. I like this so you can see that it's an onion, but if you want to do another shape, that's also fine. I'm gonna put my sliced onions into a big bowl. Okay, rosemary salt going down. What we're gonna start to do is just mix this. I'm squeezing it just a tiny bit. I don't really want to break the onions, but we want to start this process. So as we know, right, salt is gonna leach the water out of anything it touches, in this case onions. So it's going to begin to pull that juice out, and then we'll transfer it into a pot and we'll cook that over really low heat. So it's sort of stewing in its own juices, and this already smells with that rosemary and sage and garlic. Really smells like the most amazing Thanksgiving side dish. Oh, what's not so amazing is the harshness of the onions. Just add your onions into your pot. So as this heat comes into the onions from the burner, they're going to begin to release more of that juice with the help from the salt, and then the onions are going to slowly cook and break down and melt in their own liquids. And so once they're all cooked down, we'll then start emulsifying in our little cubes of cold unsalted butter, right? So it's going to be too salty, right? When you taste this before you add the butter, it should be too salty. If it isn't, you've done something wrong. You haven't added enough salt. And then when all the butter comes into it, it's going to balance it out and get that salt level just perfect. If you want something really good to try this with, try that New York strip video. I'll put a link in the corner right now. Make that steak, make these onions, have the two together. Oh my God, you'll go crazy. Also, because I use those white onions, we shouldn't really need to add a lot of liquid. This would work with another onion. The thing is, you always need to have some liquid in the bottom of this pan as they're cooking, right? So if you see that all the liquid has evaporated, just add a little bit of water. And especially when we get to the last step of adding the butter, we need a little bit of water in the bottom of that pan so it'll form a sauce. So you see this liquid here? That's all from the onions, right? So we need to maintain that during this cooking process. So here we are, like a half an hour in. I added like a quarter cup of water just to maintain this juice. So that's all we're trying to do is just maintain that little bit of liquid in the bottom. So you might need to do that, you know, like 2 or 3 times while you're cooking these. Okay, so we're about 45 minutes in here. They're really starting to break down. The smell's incredible. Still a little bit of liquid in the bottom, but I did have to add water about 3 or 4 times. Okay, so these have been on for about an hour and 15 minutes. They are sufficiently broken down, but still sort of holding together. So we're gonna start adding our cold unsalted butter, just a few cubes at a time, keeping that heat low. Making sure we had a little bit of liquid in there before we started that. Just make sure it's not going into a dry pan, otherwise you'll break the sauce. So I'm just adding like 2 tablespoons at a time, working it in and then adding more. Just keeping that heat all the way down. as you go. Oh my God. It's always exciting, you know, this is such a simple preparation, but it's just, you trust me, when you try this, you're just like, what? Oh my God, look at that. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, right? Look. I'm telling you, these are insanely good. You know, this is gonna be one of those things you try for Thanksgiving. You're like, oh, good with the turkey, good with the mash, good with the stuffing, good with everything, you know? These melted onions are gonna be one of those Thanksgiving side dishes that everyone is just like, how did you make this? Tell me how now. Let me give them a taste. Oh. So this is like a texture thing too. This tastes like everything's gonna be all right, you know? Everything's gonna be okay. That's what this tastes like. It's really got the most comforting flavors of those sage, the slow cooked onions, the rosemary, a little bit of garlic, all that butter, right, for the holiday season. Like, and when you put this in your mouth, the name melted onions, you will understand, right? Just sort of dissolves in your mouth with the butter, insane. You guys, share this with your friends. The world needs to know about melted onions for this holiday season. And if you make this and you follow me on Instagram at the same name, Cooking with Sunny, when you make a post, tag me in it. I'd love to share it on my stories with everybody else. So that's it for today's video, my friend. I hope you got some value out of this content right here. If you liked it, do not forget to leave it a like and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.